Today's episode was co-produced with the EPFL Entrepreneur Club, a new student association which promotes entrepreneurship on the EPFL campus through community building, entrepreneurship events, and services to startups. Over the next 5 weeks, we will be taking you on a journey through the Swiss Romandy to highlight the stories of students, researchers, and entrepreneurs, and find out more about all the exciting initiatives around the EPFL Lausanne.
We want to, mainstream sustainability into what means to be a startup at EPFL.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and hands-on learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Sylvan.
Alessandra, a very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
You're a Sustainable Entrepreneurship Manager at Tech4Impact, which is an EPFL initiative for accelerating groundbreaking and sustainable technological solutions to create positive societal and environmental impact. And there you are leading the Changemaker program. So I want to learn more about what motivated you to really start or be part of that initiative. What's the motivation behind Tech4Impact and the Changemaker program especially?
Sure. So at Tech4Impact, as you well said, what we are trying to do is we're trying to build bridges and build this gap between science, technology, and research into actual implementation of solutions for sustainable impact. As we're based at the EPFL, and EPFL is one of the world-leading technical universities. It is one of the key players in innovation in Switzerland and beyond. So we do think that the university has, a specific position and advantage to actually put forward its technical expertise, general competencies to society, and to actually find entrepreneurial solutions that can, achieve the sustainable impact, especially when we are talking about the UN Agenda for 2030. On top, of course, we are located in the Lac Léman region. We're quite close to International Geneva, and we work with a bunch of different stakeholders to actually try to build this ecosystem for sustainable impact, for bringing science, technology, research closer to actual solutions. So this is what we do at Tech4Impact. One of the ways that we're trying to do this, and we have an array of very diverse programs, is now the EPFL Changemakers. The EPFL Changemakers is a program that we have just recently launched, and it's a program that we've launched together with the startup unit at EPFL, so it's not only us. We already collaborate, from the design of the program. And what we are trying to do here is how can we best support students, entrepreneurs, so students who want to develop and design their own projects, into actually, implementing the solutions that they have in mind. Before at EPFL, we used to have grants that were given to students that they had when they had their entrepreneurial ideas. We had actually 2 separate grants, one from the startup unit and one from us, Tech4Impact, but they kind of had the same spirit that we are giving financial aid to students who are launching their first startups. But what we recognize with the grant model is that maybe we were not addressing the entire needs that the students had, especially at the very early stage. Financial support is not everything, especially when you are just starting, making your first steps into the startup world. So we really, actually asked ourselves, and we had a couple of meetings with the team like this: are we providing the best? Is our solution at the end, or is our grants really addressing the major needs of the students? This is the best way to support student entrepreneurship on campus at EPFL, or do we need to tweak it? And also, of course, are our internal resources used at best? Because this is also, another question. The grants can be quite demanding in terms of meetings, and we just had to do this major analysis of what we were doing and how our programs were going to. So this is why we decided actually to pivot, to do something entirely new, that it's a first-timer at EPFL, especially at the Vice Presidency for Innovation, which is where our units are. And we decided to create this program that it is a 6 months support program in which we select a cohort, bring together a cohort of entrepreneurs of EPFL, students from bachelor, master level, throughout these 6 months to actually come together as a community and learn from each other. We offer them workshops, we offer them one-to-one space for one-to-ones with both our teams and try to help them forward in the best way we can. So it's a bit more of a, we call it a comprehensive support to actually help them plant the seed of innovation and drive change through their ideas. This is why we call it the change makers. And on top, and maybe and a last point in terms of the motivation for us at Tech4Impact, it was quite important to do this together with the startup unit because we want to, mainstream sustainability into what means to be a startup at EPFL. So we don't want, that sustainability is always left on the side and then it's maybe some kind of CSR. We actually want all the students that pass through this program to consider different questions regarding sustainability issues. Is it in their solutions? Is it in their processes? Is it in the way that they set up things? So this is why we do this joint program and bring it forward.
Awesome. So from my perspective, you really solve several problems at the same time. First of all, you put sustainability on the agenda of the startups from day one. I think that's something that's easily forgotten if nobody really pushes you towards that direction. And you also go, as you just mentioned, far beyond the money part. So this is, of course, one issue in the beginning, but it's also a lot about know-how and network and just access to the right people to talk to and to help you in these early days. So I think that's a really, really great initiative. Is there any particular students that this initiative is aimed at, or who's your target student, basically?
Our target student. So let's say a requirement we set from the start is you need to be either bachelor, master students, and you need to have an idea. So, you need to come with an idea, even though the idea doesn't need to be a game changer. We're going to work on that. We actually hope that our students not necessarily pivot their entire ideas, but that they see, okay, how can we make this better? And do we need to improve it? And do we need to change it? And if you need to change it, let's change it early stage. Let's change it fast. So I would say we are aimed at very motivated students. I mean, the students at the EPFL, they definitely, free time is not necessarily something they have a lot as good engineers and science students. So they are extremely motivated to run a project on their own, on their free time, to give additional hours. This is a program that currently doesn't give any credits, any ECTS points or any academic credits. So it's really them as much as they want to engage. So actually for the application process, we looked much more at what is their motivation. Of course, we looked at what their idea was, but we really tried to understand what is their motivation and didn't only base ourselves on a paper-based type of application, but try to go further beyond.
And let's also talk about the team that actually makes this program happening, right? So who else is part of your team and what experience do these people bring to the table?
So yes, the team is quite experienced. I worked directly with, first we have the head of the startup unit, which is Andre Catana. He is extremely passionate to foster, entrepreneurship in general at EPFL at every single level. I mean, the startup unit doesn't only work with students, of course, with researchers, professors, and ecosystem partners. And he actually is the co-founder of the Technology Transfer Office at EPFL and has been supporting startups since the 90s. So it's definitely his expertise. And then we also have the head of Tech4Impact, which is Julia Binder. And she, of course, is an expert on all sustainability topics from research, also startup creation, and really helps us, make things happen in every sense. So I would say like me being accompanied by, let's say, two heads of two units, one that I'm part of, but the other one that we collaborate greatly and bring this power forward. It makes the program really rich, and the design of it, it's been super interesting, right? Because when you put two units together working on one thing and different perspectives, and then every decision that we take, we really think it through, and we can bounce ideas. I can talk to Andre, and then I talk to Julia, and then together we make this forward. And of course, we rely on the entire team of our respective units. At the Vice Presidency of Innovation, there's a lot of very capable colleagues. And also now, which I almost forgot to mention, of course, we collaborate with a student association, actually. There's the EPFL Entrepreneurial Club. And there we have our biggest contact point is Marwan. And they help us with everything that is especially peer-to-peer type of support. Because at the end, we are not, we want to ensure that we communicate with the students the best, but there's things that it's even better when it's among colleagues, and we see the value in peer-to-peer type of support very high. So this is why it was very important for us to collaborate with the student association. They actually managed the online community. They helped us on the bootcamp to set the feedback of the students, of needs assessment. We might host some of the workshops with them. For us, it's been definitely great support. So let's say with these three, Marwan, Julia, Andre, me, and of course everybody who is behind it, it's quite a collaborative project.
Sounds like a good mix.
Yeah.
I know this is still a fairly new program that you just launched there, but maybe there are still certain milestones that you have recently achieved that you can share with us. What comes to mind if you think about the milestones besides the launch of the actual program?
Exactly, the launch, definitely a big milestone. We pivoted and developed and implemented this program during the summer. So that was a big milestone. We launched and we opened applications and closed applications, and now have selected our cohort of 20 students. 20 students that almost all of them, or I say it the other way, we have 16 projects for 20 students. So we have a couple of students that actually belong to the same team, but they all had to apply. It's a personal status. Changemaker is a personal status. So they all went still to the application process. These 20 students are quite diverse. We have one of our big milestones, we like to say, we have 6 women in the cohort, which for an engineering school is quite important. Good representation. And the students, we have bachelor, most master level, and then we also have even 2 PhDs who highly requested to please join, even though the program at the beginning we didn't design it with PhD students in mind. But we thought to give it a try for this first edition and see how it goes for them as well. Sure. The students, we have everything, everything within the spectrum, of course, of science and engineering, nanotechnologies, management of technology, computer science, civil engineering. You mentioned it, we have it. Then we just run our first 2 sessions, actually last week, which was our first and at the same time probably last in-person session, at least for this year, due to the situation. We had a full-day bootcamp, which was a great event with an external facilitator, and the students, had a great time. And then just yesterday, 2 days ago, we had our first online workshop on product market fit with our Vice President for Innovation, Mark Gruber, on where to play. And today, just after this podcast, we're gonna meet all together and have our first online happy hour, if you want, some sharing, some how is it going type of thing.
Before we continue with the show, a quick information about an event happening tomorrow. If you're looking to meet new energy and clean tech startups working in Switzerland, join the Energy Startup Day that will take place tomorrow on December 1st from 2 to 6 p.m. online. Over 40 startups will pitch in the afternoon session, covering topics like new B2C and B2B business models dealing with peer-to-peer electricity networks, carbon neutral mobility, synergistic sector coupling, and also urban heat systems, and much more. Each pitching session will be followed by a dedicated breakout room for online networking. At the end of the event, they will also announce the winners of 3 startup awards: Investor's Choice, Expert's Choice, and Public Choice, voted on by the participants of the event. So if you're into clean tech, visit www.energy-startup-day.ch to get the online link and register for free. Yeah, that's a very important part to also consider when setting up such a program, right? You always need to have the topic-specific input, but then also make enough room for the social interaction and exchange.
Yeah, it's super important. And something that, for us, this is also a change, right? Before we used to have, as I said, we used to have these grants, and then we give grants to students, and we did it at different times. So the students didn't even meet. They didn't know maybe they knew who else had a grant, but that was it. Now we're bringing 20 students. They're all going through the same type of workshops, the same things. Of course, there's certain tailoring on the one-on-ones and the type of expertise that they access. But let's say they're all meeting, in the bootcamp, they all met each other. And now, of course, now we have to go online. But for us, building this community of entrepreneurs, of change makers, it's key. And if by meeting, doing this kind of casual meetings, sometimes we foster peer-to-peer learning, even so better. Just before I saw a message of one of the students saying, hey, I have expertise in this. If anybody has questions, I'm happy to help for anything that is leadership skills, for example, which is something that you don't see that often. But we like to think that we are at least igniting that discussion, that development, and that peer-to-peer support.
Awesome. Yeah, I can highly support that, because also at Swisspreneur, we run founders dinners where we bring founders from all stages together for a dinner. Now also remotely in these days, but just to make that exchange happen and bring the people together that they can just exchange and talk about whatever is on their mind. This is so powerful about the connections, the knowledge sharing, whatever comes out of that exchange. If you have the right people, made the right selection at the beginning, that's where the magic happens. Then bring them together and they can really learn from each other and help each other out. That's fantastic to see.
Exactly. Especially for startup creation, right? They have to find their own paths. We are just here to support them and give them the platform, but it's up to them to take it forward.
But as we know, startups not always take the straight path to success. There are usually many ups and downs. So although it's still a new initiative, I'm sure you also had some challenges that you faced. So what was the biggest, the toughest challenge that you faced along this way so far?
It's just one.
Most likely not, yeah.
There have been a couple. First of all, as I said, we did design this program in a very agile way, which was great. Because also we are from the team, we are not afraid of necessarily trying something out and then failing at it and then, having to pivot from it. Actually, the entire opposite. We are like, okay, let's try it out. If it doesn't work, let's do something else. And, in terms of the components of the program, right? Very open to feedback. So this has been great. But we did develop this in midst of all these, crazy times. So actually, when we started having the discussions early in the year, we were doing everything online. And sometimes this can pose challenges when you don't get to see the team with whom you're developing an entire new initiative. So this sometimes was tough, but we have had so many WhatsApp and Zoom and email calls. So, this has helped. I think now also the uncertainty, up until last week, we had in place a lot of measures to be able to have the workshops in person, having rooms that are 2 or 3 times as big as the amount of people that we are, really restricting who is coming, having the list, the registrations, following all the guidelines, and then planning also for those guidelines. And then, from one day to another, or maybe not one day to another, but a couple of days before, you wonder, it appears everything is going to change. And then how is that going to change? So last week was a bit of a headache for us. Almost every day we were, calling and thinking, we need to change. What do we need to do? And but it's good. I think now that we know that everything is online, at least we can focus on that. And now this is the challenge that I'm trying to solve right now: is how do we implement a program that it makes sense when it's it also makes sense when it's online. But let's say one of the biggest things that we wanted to push was when it was in person, that they get to see each other, build community, that we do the workshops, very interactive workshops that they can work on their own ideas during the workshop, everything online now. So what does that mean? Everybody I think now knows concentration span when you're on Zoom. How do you work? You have the breakout rooms. Is it interactive enough? This happy hour that I mentioned before, today is the first time that we're going to host it. And I'm thinking, okay, do we need to have some activities, some slides? What is the format? It changes a lot. So this is the current challenge I think that we are going to face, to turn this into a valuable experience despite us not to be able to see each other.
Yeah, so you have to stay flexible. You have to make it work if it's happening physically, hybrid or fully remote. You have to make sure that everything works.
Yeah, it's I think resembles the startup process in that sense.
Absolutely right.
We are ready for the changes that come and we'll adapt. And what I really like is that the students, they are passionate and motivated, and they are also aware of the situation, right? We are all in the same boat, let's say. So if there's anything, we write, and then I'm going to ask today, actually, what do you guys think? Should we have these sessions? Should we change something? Should we, I don't know.
Yeah, constantly ask for feedback.
Yes, all the time. It's key. Feedback is key. It has made this program come to existence for sure. I alone wouldn't have been able to do it without all the feedback that we got throughout the process.
With your initiative, you're also part of the startup ecosystem in the western part, in the Swiss Romandy. From your perspective, what is the ecosystem in the western part doing well, and what could still be improved, or what's missing from your perspective?
Yes, it is. And it's doing great, actually. You know that the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor has recognized Canton Vaud and Geneva as hidden champions of entrepreneurship. What can be a surprise for many is that we actually have similar numbers of spin-offs, startups, and entrepreneurial activity as Canton Zurich, attracting an equal amount of venture capital investments. So yes, the Romandy has quite a vibrant and growing startup ecosystem that many investors are looking at already. And it is in this context that the EPFL is considered as a key driver in the entrepreneurial innovation of the region. More than half or even much higher of the investments generated in the region have been raised out of EPFL. So this is something that you see in different entrepreneurial ecosystems. You think of Zurich and you have ETH, you think of Munich and there's the TU München, you have, of course, San Francisco and Berlin and Stanford. And across the globe, where you have a strong tech university, you will also see very high entrepreneurial activity levels. And at EPFL, we're very keen in developing and supporting this growing entrepreneurial ecosystem, both at the university, but also in the Romandy region. In terms of what is missing or what can be improved, first of all, I would have to say is the impact dimension. We are already going in this direction, but we still need more resources, expertise, and funding directed specifically towards impact-driven ventures. We do have more partners and actors working to push sustainable entrepreneurship, but the support needs to continue growing across the region, and I think this is also across Switzerland. We actually do see this need directly reflected in our young entrepreneurs at EPFL and our young students. In our Changemakers cohort, for example, most students have an interest in one way or another to develop useful solutions. Is it for social, economic, or environmental impact? And even if their solution is not impact-driven yet, they are willing to engage in that discussion and understand how sustainability and what sustainability means for them and their projects. This is actually one of the key aspects of our programs, as I mentioned before. Maybe then the second thing that could be improved is the interaction between the different regions in Switzerland. There are many exciting things happening all across the country, and the question is, how can we build bridges and connections across? This is something actually where the COVID crisis has had a very positive effect upon. For example, we are part of the Versus Virus organization team. Versus Virus being the national hackathon and now virtual incubator that aimed at finding solutions to fight the pandemic. And we have seen now founder teams that are located and divided, with founders divided across the country. And they're collaborating in a virtual way that before was, probably not explored enough, and before being just a couple of months ago. Even our team itself, it's spread between regions and organizations that we are all coming together for a common cause. So there is big collective potential if we break silos and this famous Röstigraben.
Yeah, I think that's really a good fit to close to your mission, right? Again, to also show you what you care about and what's important. So now we talked about the initiative, the GameChangers initiative, the Tech4Impact, but we also want to know a bit more about you. So we prepared 3 rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
I am ready.
So the first one is, what's a surprising fact that people don't know about you?
Ja, ich kann 5 Sprachen. Deutsch ist eins davon und ich lerne gerade Sprache Nummer 6.
Nice one. Cool. Who do you admire the most? Is there any certain person that comes to mind?
Well, I tend to find inspiration in my most immediate surroundings. And here I must say it's actually my current boss and good friend, Julia Binder. She is quite inspiring, super smart, heading a bunch of initiatives, of course, Tech4Impact, as deputy director also of the Vice Presidency of Innovation. She's leading research, teaching, managing us. So she has quite some responsibilities. We always wonder how she does it. But she always finds time to listen, to sit down or rather Zoom in now and discuss, and we get to create together. And she's someone I can trust. And for me, a model of a colleague, of a good boss, and of a great and very strong woman.
I think sounds like a wonderful role model, and even better that you are able to work with her in the same organization.
Yes, such a learning. I mean, you find the gems despite being in a COVID situation, despite us working from home. It's still nice to come to work when you have such a role model to learn from.
And also maybe just, if people are interested to learn more about the GameChangers program or Tech4Impact in general, where should they head to? Where can they learn more about your programs?
So you can find, of course, everything in general about innovation at EPFL on the EPFL website. We have a dedicated section for innovation, and you can see the work that we do in general from the Vice Presidency of Innovation. And then the startup unit, Tech4Impact. We are on LinkedIn, Tech4Impact. So you can follow us there if you want the latest updates from us. And the Changemakers, we also have a site, a website. It's just EPFL Changemakers. You can Google that and you're going to get all the information. We have also, we feature the students that are part of our first cohort and what their projects are. So also feel free to look at it. And if you think of any resources or any way, or you're interested in talking to any of our students to support them in any way, feel free to reach out to us. I mean, we are super happy to receive, of course, that type of support and links.
Yeah, and get inspired to then apply for the second cohort, I hope.
Yes, exactly. Next year, second cohort of the Changemakers. So every EPFL student that is interested, please reach out. And we already got some requests even from other universities. So let's see where the road takes us. This is just the start.
Cool. Alessandra, thank you so much for taking the time. It was a pleasure to jump over the Röstigraben to also learn more about what's going on in Lausanne. And I'm sure that our listeners also appreciate that. Thank you for the time and the insights, and all the best and lots of success with everything that you'll tackle in the future.
Thank you very much. It was very nice to talk to you.
Thank you for tuning into today's episode. Stay connected with the Swisspreneur community through our LinkedIn and Instagram profiles. Make sure to subscribe to our show on whatever podcast platform you're using. See you next week for a brand new episode of the Swisspreneur Show.